Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to the Wright Brothers for another live video. We haven't had one of these for about 3 weeks now. It's good to be back with you. If this is your first time watching, watch through to the end, and if you like what you hear, please feel free to smash that subscribe button. We are actually only about 50 subscribers away from hitting 4,000. I can't believe it, but we couldn't have gotten here without all of y'all's wonderful support. And any and every one of you who wants to come into the fold, please feel free to do so. We love inviting y'all into this group of patriots along with us, and we hope you enjoy our content. But
you said you can't believe that you made it to that number. What is there not to be able to believe? I can believe that you would make it to that number, considering how many of us have computers or smartphones or tablets. Also, how many people populate this planet, Earth, universe, whatever, land. So,
as we know, the media cycle never stops. Even today, we had a man actually lit himself on fire in front of the Trump Tower or the Trump Hotel, I believe. That notwithstanding, there was also information coming out about President Trump actually thinking about sending all these illegal immigrants to these sanctuary cities who made all these claims that they would love to have people come to our country illegally. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about reparations, because there's been a new push around this in these recent days. And we really want to talk about why reparations is really an issue that's rooted in victimization, identity politics, and there's so much we can go over with that, but it's victimization and identity politics are the main things we're going to talk about today.
Victimization. I was asked not that long ago, while at one of the vicinities that is addressed as or is acknowledged as a court, from attempting to kill myself after being assaulted in my own apartment. The reason why I finally had gotten to the mentality of wishing to die is because so many traumatic events, so many abusive situations, daily abuse while in the possession and under the supervision or lack thereof while with my sperm donor. And after having been abused every day for nearly 10 years, what it had done to my mentality and to my behavior and my outlook on the world, and feeling unheard, unnoticed, unprotected. It has been this narrative that being a victim can only be ascribed to certain characters while living in this experience in what is called America or United States of America. Even as a child, when CPS, Child Protection Services, had came, nothing was done to ensure my safety, and I was left in the same house of which the abuse continued, where eventually I would just have to continue on living in abuse every day. for nearly 10 years. Now, how my mental had been altered and my personality and behavior was altered, and feeling vulnerable, unheard, unwanted, uncared for. Many situations had occurred in that house, in those houses, of which many siblings and extended family, even neighbors, were witness to and were the very abusers that abused me while I was left in that house, even after the school teachers had reported to Child Protection Services, even when Child Protection Services had came to the house in Oregon, whether this was Beaverton or Salem or Tigard. Nothing was done, and broken promises had been made as to which I was supposed to return back to my mother, which did not happen until I was 13. Meanwhile, all those years that I had remained, even while I would run away from that house and the abusive situation, even after telling neighbors about this, nothing was done to prevent this abuse, as the sperm donor had told me from a young age, from the day that I sat down with him and the interviewer representing CPS, Child Protection Services. I had went over what I was experiencing, the abuse that I was experiencing and suffering from as a victim inside of that home as a child. I could not have been over the age of 8. And if my memory is correct, I believe I was only in the 1st or 2nd grade. So, the side effect of dealing with this abuse, which was perpetuated by several members of that so-called family, and it was kept a secret by so-called grandparents who were major figures in the city of Milpitas, California. The grandfather, or the father of the sperm donor, is a pastor. The sperm donor is a minister. The indoctrination and suffering, brainwashing, and abuse that came from Kojic culture, that was enabled by sperm donor blackmail, that was upheld by and violence administered by sperm donor's wife, Caucasian female, where I had been a victim of sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, mental abuse, spiritual abuse every day for nearly 10 years. I was isolated and groomed to never betray again my abusers, which was orchestrated and upheld by those that were supposed to be my siblings, so much so that one of the siblings, an older, supposed to be brother, had written a letter to sperm donor's wife stating that I was the equivalent of a black Cinderella, since my worth while experiencing this daily abuse, I was not able to move in the house by myself. I was touched inappropriately sexually. I was ridiculed every day. I was slapped, hit, beaten, thrown, tossed, sleep deprived, oftentimes starved, went through ritualistic abuse every day for nearly 10 years. Yet when I went to what people address as court, from after attempting to kill myself, after being raped and assaulted in my own apartment, of which I had to work 3 jobs, my car was lit on fire, and take care of my daughter. And it still wasn't enough. I still barely had any money to get by as the rent increased. But yet here I am. So when I had been pretending to act as if I was normal, being drugged, used as a guinea pig, taking everything from Remron to Celexa to Prozac to Ambien to Trazodone. The list could go on. Eventually, the picture that is painted is that I was a drug-seeking addict, which I've never been. What I did become was dependent on many of these so-called medications, which altered my brain and the chemistry of it to where my attention span had been altered. I once was a girl who could read and enjoyed reading and educating myself up until I would be punished, physically abused for reading by myself in the room. Reading would permit me to being physically assaulted, slapped, ridiculed, and told that I need to be a part of the family. Many neighbors knew. Many of the so-called relatives knew. Many of the so-called church Kojic members knew. The sperm donor knew. Yet it was denied. I was called crazy. And I was honored the position of sponge, scapegoat, fat ass, stupid, ugly, tub of lard, blah, blah, blah. So at these courts, when they say that I was incompetent and made it a theme to try to paint this picture that I'm some drug-seeking addict, when I break both of my bilaterals in my wrist from jumping off of a train because I got tired of being abused, and I got tired of being the victim. Yet, when asked the question, am I a victim? And I say yes, that is not granted to me. And because that was not the correct answer according to these that ask. Being abused since the day that you are born, and then being released into this world where your self-esteem and image is broken, and then tolerating and hearing and seeing and being pressured into whether you want to do it or not by the propaganda, the music industry, the movies, your peers. I had, of course, went on to experience more trauma as life seemed to descend as it progressed. I learned more and more that I am alone and no one will protect me. Nobody cares. And what I go through is not seen as trauma. It is not seen as abuse. And nobody gives a damn as to what I've had to go through. Credit ruined by the very ones who abused me for nearly 10 years by being able to get a mortgage loan and automobile loans out in my name while I was still a teenager. I had no idea any of this systematic phrases and how it worked relative to credit. I had no one to turn to. I had no one who would listen. I was paranoid, and evidently, even while interacting with these so-called authority figures and programs and organized groups that are supposed to protect children, it didn't work for me. And when I speak about these traumatic experiences, nothing and nobody cared. Nothing and nobody stopped. I was left alone in that system. Bruises, evidence, still nothing. Nothing made anyone stop. Nothing made anyone care. It took having to have my hair cut off and no longer being able to be seen as a sexual object in order for my release to finally come to me, but by then I was already so broken. So when I'm told that I'm incompetent for stating that indeed I am a victim, but society refuses to address it as such. Society says get over it, as I was told by so-called professionals at a place where I was supposed to receive some sort of health care. Instead, I was tied down. All the while, my wrists were dislocated and were deformed, and they still are to this day, in which I suffer pain every single day. They chained me to that metal bed. They poisoned me and drugged me and refused to even ask me why. They treated me like I was worthless. While in the back of the EMS, as a Caucasian male placed his fingers around my nostrils to pinch it closed and then puts his hand over my mouth. But yet I'm delusional and hallucinating. I'm not allowed to be a victim. I'm not allowed to say what I know is true. No rape kit was done until way after the fact, in which they would put in these notes that I didn't request them, and perhaps they would know that I could not request them, being that I was always drugged every time that they would try to have an interaction with me, to the point that I was incoherent and could not speak. So because I try to take matters into my own hands, seemingly that justice was not ready for me, and that nothing was to be done justly, justifiably, and in any efforts of any consideration of what I had been through and why I had been through it. No repercussions, no consequences. The only consequence that fell onto anyone in regards to the nearly 10 years of daily abuse that happened to me was me. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm entitled to reparations. And no, it's true. Yes, I agree. It isn't going to ever be solved with money. However, it would be solved by first acknowledging that something is wrong here, and that some people just aren't treated the same when it comes to abuse. And maybe that slave story happened for some, and maybe I'm not the existing one and it didn't happen to me. Well, you're a liar. I was a slave. I am a slave. And I'm a slave to people who are not human, to whatever you shells are marching around here speaking for me and never once admitting what was done, why it was done, how it was done. I have no reason to lie. My interest is not into being what this society considers rich. I wanted peace. I wanted boundaries. I wanted protection. I wanted safety. I wanted to experience being a child. I damn sure deserve to be a woman. But I'm not a victim. I don't feel anything. You give me drugs that I don't need, and then turn around and tell me what I can and cannot do, as if I was ever the one who was savage-like and violent to you. And no, that adulteration bull crap was not at all an attempt to harm anyone. It was a cry for help that never was answered. Instead, it's criminalized and treated like I'm a criminal. It's sad when there are those who can get away with murder and nothing is done to them. But how many years will pass and they'll be able to say, I wasn't the one who did it to you. I don't have to pay.
So, as you may have heard, Georgetown University, actually yesterday, the students held a vote to determine whether or not there was going to be a reparations fund. It still has to be approved by the Georgetown University faculty and staff. But the basic sentiment is we would like to... Okay, let me back up a little bit. So Georgetown University actually, several hundred years ago, I think it was about 200 years ago, I'm not sure exactly on the time frame, but what they wanted to do was they had this debt and they sold slaves to pay off this debt, right? So this happened so many generations ago, and now the push is to have a $27.20 fee added on to each student's semester fees to pay for these reparations for the descendants of these people who were sold. And let's make no mistake, slavery was a sordid, terrible blight on American history, and we are so thankful that we've come so far as a country this far. But we know we still have ways to go, but the reason I don't think reparations...
How far have we came? How far have we truly came? What was the difference between when I was a young girl in comparison to now? What was the difference? When the abuse can be witnessed right in front of you, you can have images, videos, and nothing is done. Does slavery only mean that you have to be out in some field picking cotton? Isn't slavery of the mind and slavery of one's will also part of that same crime? That very same crime of manipulating and exploiting someone's energy in order to achieve something. Something definitely was stolen from many of us. And this narrative and this proud stance on speaking on these matters oh so eloquently with this tone of just absolute education and professionalism and specifics and just deflecting from the true issues. I'm talking about the slavery that still goes on to this very moment, where my pain, our pain, is deflected. Secrets still held on to. Vile generational abuse. There are things that need to be consequenced, and there are those who do not fit the narrative of who the oppressors are and who the victims are. I was a victim. I am a survivor, but yet I still live unprotected. And I'm aware of this because I'm not allowed to be a victim. I must be resilient and strong and be like rubber. And everything and everyone else can be like glue. And it could just bounce right on off me, and I just keep picking myself up and dusting it off. And if it happens again, oh well, don't waste my time to call or look for anyone or anything, nor to pray, nor to seek, nor to wish, nor to hope. I know because nearly 10 years nobody came. So, Church of God in Christ, the lies of my life, yes, reparations, but the reparations would not come in the form of currency. It would come in the form of security and alleviating myself and many who do not wish to conform to a society that does not see them as valuable, but sees them as the permanent underclass of scapegoats and beating bags and treated like trash, underpaid but often overworked, and doing excellent work at oftentimes meaningless activity that does absolutely nothing to contribute to the reality that I wish to participate in. It would have been wonderful and appreciated had my education been taken seriously instead of learning meaningless information, where I would have actually been able to have ownership over my reality and manifesting that instead of pulling weeds and being treated like instead of pulling weeds and cleaning the house and writing sentences and writing out lies and praying to characters that I've never ever met and I do not believe in, instead of being shamed, ridiculed, provoked, harmed, instead of being thrown into the pool to learn how to swim and then laughed at when I sunk to the bottom, and when I did my doggy paddle trying to grope for the sides of the pool where I was thrown right back in and slapped around, told, don't be a fucking retard. Look at her, she swims like a dollar. You try that for 10 years daily, and you tell me, are you a victim? If I tell you no, but you say yes, who is lying and who's being honest? I really am disgusted when someone else gets to run their mouth about the narrative as to what I feel and what I experienced, but yet I'm interrogated for the trauma that I experienced as if I'm a liar, or as if some privilege or something of a gift was given to me. Oh, you mean to tell me that it's actually fun to be abused every day? You mean that I should be glad that somebody harmed me and was able to get away with it? Nothing comes of it, no consequence. Pimped and prostituted while someone else gets to exploit me and abuse me, terrify me, stalk me, so-called kidnap me, which is more just violating my boundaries and taking me against my will, throwing me into jail for nothing, absolutely nothing other than being a victim and being exploited. But I guess I'm just not the right class of a human woman. Perhaps if I had just looked something different, maybe my reality would have been different. Maybe I would have been taken seriously. Maybe then they would have felt sympathy. But oh, not me. I'm not a victim. I'm just so grateful for all the abuse and all the side effects that carry with us, even as we heal, as if there is an end destination, or as if there is an end certificate after you're done trying to heal from the trauma that is lived and re-experienced every day. Every day in another form, whether I'm being honked at or stalked or threatened.
This is the way to go. We'll get into that more in just a second. But students at Georgetown University, bear in mind, Georgetown is not the cheapest university in the world. Actually, per semester tuition is $27,720, and that's before we add this extra proposed fee that might come on. But I digress. So students at Georgetown have said that this is going to right the wrongs of the past. And we're going to get into in a minute is really why reparations is not the best idea now. It will be argued that, other groups of people receive reparations in the past, and this may be true. But in the current times we live in, I think there's a better way to go about trying to right these wrongs. And it's not necessary for us to try to make people who had nothing to do with the atrocities of the past try to masquerade as social justice warriors to try to right the...
You don't get to speak for them. You don't get to make excuses for them, but you do. And it's insulting. Speak for yourself. Stop speaking for other people. There are many of us who do need to be repaired, and true, spitting out a number of a fake concept of living. That is slavery. My life, my existence is beyond an identification assimilated and relating to a number. It sickens me, even though I say nearly 10 years. What would that come out to? Does it have anything to do with this narrative that you're running off with? It just devastates me how so many believe that they are not only entitled, but they feel that they are doing something decent and that they should be proud of this and carry on this tone and attitude of doing something even worth being accepted as a notion of work, or that they're doing something honest and that he's just doing his job and that he's such a game changer and that he was such a wonderful political figure. This makes me want to vomit. So many of us, our stories, our truth, and this dialogue of correlating our trauma to something that happened in a wee long times ago, and things have changed and gotten better. What has changed and gotten better? The predatory tactics, the desensitizing, the ability to turn the other cheek and look away and not intercept such traumatic situations and environments. What has gotten better? The lies, the illusion, the delusions, this sad attempt at covering crimes up and calling it mental illnesses, calling it a crime when it's simply called interacting with reality. My interactions with reality in comparison to those who oppressed me or abusive to me and get away with it and are able to come up with excuses and deflecting and shifting and blaming the victims. I won't sit around waiting on the rest of society to address me as what I am. However, it insults me how you think you're so educated and you have all of these words and you're able to string them together so perfectly, but yet there's still that undertone of a liar, a deceiver, a pretender, a people pleaser. I thought I was a people pleaser.
These wrongs themselves, because let's be honest, this is 2019. No one alive today, for the most part, no one alive today ever had to experience slavery, as it were.
As it were? I did. Speak for yourself. You are not the voice of reason. Stop. And it looks really sickening coming from you.
Now we have people who are going out of their way to say, we need to right these wrongs and we're going to actually just hand this money out to whoever says they were most aggrieved by the
I don't need money. I want separation. I want security. I want education, wisdom, resources, yes. I am okay with building and learning, but I will not be obedient and submissive to anyone else ever again. You don't get to determine when I'm in pain. Slavery has never ended. And I'm sick of this. And it's sickening. It's absolutely sickening.
Transgressions of the past. Bear with me, my camera's kind of flying around there. Okay. So, Georgetown University is 6% black, and 58% white. So even that in and of itself kind of goes to show where these sentiments are kind of coming from, right? What really frustrates me about all this, and what we have to really keep in mind as well, is that looking through history, we can kind of get a good idea of what people really felt back when slavery was actually something through which they were still going. So I want to read this quote to you from Frederick Douglass, and this is a speech that he gave in 1862. And the question he was asked was, what's going to be done with the slaves? What are we going to do with the slaves if they are freed or emancipated? And I thought his answer was really thought-provoking. I think it actually is something we should actually hearken back to now in 2019. But he said as follows, and these are just little bits and pieces, like there's a large portion. He said, our answer is, do nothing with them. He's talking about the newly freed slaves. Do nothing with them. Mind your business and let them mind theirs. Your doing with them is their greatest misfortune. They have been undone by your doings, and all they now ask, and really have need of at your hands, is just to let them alone. They suffer by every interference, and succeed best by being let alone. The best way to help them is just to let them help themselves. Now, this is back in 1862, when it can be argued that people had much more of a claim for reparations than people do now. Let's be honest. People from the African American community litter the socioeconomic landscape. And what the question really comes up with this reparations argument is, okay, well then who would receive these reparations? Now bear in mind, Frederick Douglass, when he was talking about, he was saying basically everything that y'all have tried to do for us, talking about the people in the past, the white slave owners and all, is what y'all have done with us has caused this disrepair. So let us fix it. Leave us alone. Let us do our own thing, is what he was trying to say. And I think a lot of people in these current times could actually take those nuggets of wisdom that he had from back then and apply it to your life now, because as I said in the beginning, this is a weaponization of the victimization culture that we live in.
What are you serving an eviction for? Start the eviction on Monday. I'm taking Monday off. I'm going to start the eviction. Get you out. What are you doing an eviction for? I'm going to start you. Get you out. Go find some place to rent. Look, this place is open. Move there. Okay, that might be a great solution. You will see. But you're not going to abuse me. Okay. No, you are. You are. You're disrespecting me. Okay. You're violating my protection. Okay, you have a protection. You're violating my boundaries. You're violating my body. You're trying to scare someone and use fear. Are you going to throw that bike away too? I told you. No, this bike right here, are you going to throw that one away next to this tree? I told you. Yes. I told you that this is my world. You may have a house, but I'm not your slave. And I'm done. You don't own my body. I offer many things that you don't respect. You want money, and I want peace. Get the fuck out of my house. Okay. I will. Until then, okay. You're not going to threaten me. You can do whatever you've got to do. You can do it right now if you really want to. But what you're not going to do is use fear. That's part of your environment. How do you eat? Do you think I'm moving it inside because you? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And I will show them this. I will show them this. I can do whatever I want, and you're done. Okay. Yeah? Is that what you guys do when you can't control women? Is that what you do? I am the environment. Even if you kill me, I'm still going to be here. Police can control you? Police can control you?
I don't want those inside here.
I can do whatever I want. Okay. You don't get to run me.
Then take those things in your house.
And you're not going to throw anything away.
I'll throw them away.
You're not going to throw it away.
Okay, wait,
if you throw it away, you're going to pay for them.
Okay, I will pay. You don't take that thing in my house.
Well then they need to be outside. Well then leave. Oh, you destroy it?
Yeah. You don't bring those.
You're paying for that, and it's not, and I'm glad it's being recorded. You're recorded.
Yeah. You want to know what I'm going to give you?
And guess what? You're gonna clean up your mess because you've been recorded. Bring the police. I'm happy to watch. Well then, don't tell me to move them from the yard. Stop trying to control me.
Okay.
You want trouble, you see my trouble today.
You know what? You're gonna pay for it. You're gonna pay for it. Okay, then pay for my removal then. This is what he does. He destroys food and women being self-sufficient and then wants to control them. He say I can't have nothing in the yard. Okay, I'm not afraid of you. Well, I don't care. I'm the whole world. You won't survive without me. I'm an idiot. You won't survive without us.
How are you crazy?
You telling me to get it out of the yard. Where else am I supposed to put it?
Why should you bring those things in my yard? Why should you
Because, smart one,
why are you planting for
smart one, do you see this grass? I'm planting food because I'd rather take care of myself.
This is my house.
I don't care.
Okay, you don't care.
This is my world. This is my world.
Okay.
And you don't enter or get to exist without me.
Okay, you still work, but not in my house.
Man ain't gonna get nowhere without us. Okay. And until you respect that, I'm part of this. You're not by doing what you do. And you can clean your mess. Okay, well you will either pay for that or you are gonna pay for what you just destroyed. You are gonna pay for that. You can clean it up since you wanted to clean your yard so desperately. And your ego, and you can't fucking control that? And you think that you're gonna scare me with the police after all I've been through and suffered at the hands of all of you? You can't control yourself. How you think you can control us? Won't you jack off like everyone else? Sort yourself out and get it together. But what you're not gonna do, you're not gonna lie to me. You throw away my stuff, you're gonna pay for that. You want me to leave because I have dignity and respect for myself? Then you need to pay for that also. You don't get to just determine what's up and what's down. You will never ever exist anywhere without us. And instead of trying to control us, be grateful that at least we have the intelligence to do this. While you're too busy trying to make us your slave. You will clean this up.
That crazy dude over there at CNN, he was falling all over himself to go up to LeBron. Work at now. I'm blessed to see the world through the eyes of the people I interact with in the retail space or the convenience store space or what have you. And in my bouncer days, I remember usually around this time of year because and I find it very grating, though, that the majority of people are willing to honestly just kind of sit back and say, yes, we want reparations. And then on the other side of the aisle, you have all these well-meaning people who are not African-American who are siding with the reparations argument. I'm going to go ahead and say this, and people might not be happy with it. It is what it is. This is 2019. Anyone who has a smartphone has almost all the tools they need to be successful. People will talk to you all day about how oppressed they are because they've been sold the lie that oppression is cool. Just because the Democrats sell you a lie, you still have to buy it, otherwise they go out of business. But the majority of people are going to accept this lie because it is convenient and because it is exculpatory. It allows you to blame someone else for where you are. But anyone who has a cell phone, smartphone, you have access to the world's largest encyclopedia.
But mind you, there's a bike right here. Of course, it's owned by a male. There's a bike right here. It's owned by a male. And gratefully and fortunately, my daughter's bike, if you can see it, was left untouched. So he respects my child, at least, a little bit. Which I don't know how he could respect my child, but then do what he does to me. So he does whatever he wants to do. He does whatever he wants to. My bike, but yeah, you know, my vegetables growing are trash. It destroys them. But yet, he doesn't want his yard to be dirty. Well, let's take a look then. Let's take a look. And you tell me. He felt the need to go through my compost, take the stuff off inside of that cooler, is things that need to be composted. But nonetheless, he wants everything out of it. But this is the yard. Do you see any of my stuff? Is this any of my stuff? I don't know. But my bike is gone. He threw it away. He felt the need to throw that away. He's entitled to throw my stuff away. But this bike can stay. This bike can stay. That bike can stay. And I don't see a problem with the bikes being there. I don't see a problem with my garden. Do you see it? You let me know what you see. And then tell me how I'm supposed to listen to that and abide to that. And then tell me what I've done wrong. Because, of course, I say it that way condescendingly, because nothing deserves that. Okay? So, yeah, you can say, oh, well, go move somewhere else. Go over there. Go over there. Because, you know, you're rich. I am rich, actually. I am wealthy. But you're rich. You have money, don't you? You can just go over there to that house. Yeah, I could. And I can. But this doesn't need to happen. Meanwhile, that don't need to be happening. My bike. But that bike is allowed. That bike is allowed. Whether my garden is inside or outside. And it's dirty. It's dirty according to him. It's in his way. This is what you guys allow. This is what you guys condone. This is what you guys protect. But yet you still find a way to not defend what needs to be defended. You still don't say what needs to be said. You still remain silent and compliant with what this is. Look, you see these wonderful gifts, okay? I don't pray to Jesus. I don't fucking care about Allah. Look at this. Look, this.
Of course it's buffering. Of course it's buffering. Because he said what we litter with socioeconomics. We litter the ground, don't we? We're so proud to be in the retail stores buying processed food that kills us. Yeah. And yeah, he destroyed all of my vegetables. I don't even want to go back outside and look at it because I'm just infuriated with this dialogue. And I'm tired of y'all running your mouth saying what you say.
Look, you see these wonderful gifts, okay? I don't pray to Jesus. I don't fucking care about Allah. Look at this. Look, this is what you guys do. Look. So he found it acceptable to throw these potatoes. So now they're ruined. I'm not cleaning that shit up. But he says, oh, he's cleaning his yard. You see my vegetables and stuff that I've got on here? Because I'm so stupid and I'm a gold digger, remember? Okay, so these are potatoes. These are bell peppers and radish, okay? These are garlic over here. Garlic growing, okay? These are bell peppers, okay? These are potatoes, okay? These are onions, okay? Radishes. There's a lemon tree, apple tree, and you probably won't see it for a long time, but whatever. Onions. You see those growing? Do you see that? Nobody taught me none of this stuff. And I am the environment. He says I'm making his environment dirty. That's what he says. That I'm the problem. And that he wants to evict me because I choose to do things like this. Not because anyone's paying me. Not because of being forced to do it. This is something that I wanted to do. And I think people should do if they want to survive. But instead of surviving and learning and existing and taking the initiative to have ownership over yourself, this is what these males would like to do. So he wants to evict me and says that I should move over there because He wants this out of his yard. So I'm like, okay, I'll move it inside or on the porch or somewhere. So I initially had put it on the sidewalk, concrete, because I'm like, whatever, what does that have to do with the yard? Plants don't grow without sunlight. Okay, you do know that, right? And he says that he wants to clean up the yard. I don't know what he's trying to clean up, because he wants to plant roses, flowers, wonderful. He wants to plant roses. He can grow roses and flowers, but I cannot grow potatoes and onions and carrots and radishes and fucking bell peppers. What else did we plant? I forgot just that quick. And lemon trees and apple trees. That to him is trash. It's dirty, and it's his house. And while staying at his house, he can destroy. Do you see these potatoes here? Do you see this? How those are sprouted like that? Those were going to make plenty of potatoes to where I don't have to buy them, because I don't enjoy being a slave. And I'm not going to consent to being controlled, because I'm part of this world whether you like it or not. And controlling me is not going to fix you. You won't fix you until you're willing to accept that you're the one destroying this world. You're the one destroying this world. And blaming me and trying to, quote, kick me out of something that I'm a part of. I'm a part of that world. You wouldn't exist. You won't be here until you can respect that. And stop trying to threaten me and control me, because I'm sick of you. You're ungrateful, disrespectful, and you won't put yourself to the test. Look what I'm doing. Look what you do. Look what I'm doing. Look what you do. Stop trying to destroy me. You get that?
Where was I? Oh, as a bouncer through my collegiate years at Texas A&M University, I was blessed to see the world through a different lens. And again, as a territory sales manager from a company that I work at now, I'm blessed to see the world through the eyes of the people I interact with in the retail space or the convenience store space or what have you. And in my bouncer days, I remember usually around this time of year, because this is tax time, usually around this time of year, working out at the clubs or what have you where I was working, right around tax time, you would see a lot of people, fresh faces I call them, because typically you have your regular people who you might see, once a week or every 2 weeks or every month. You would see a very odd group of people. And these are people that you didn't really know who they were, but they were walking around, and I mean, this was like, they treated the club in College Station, Texas, like it was the red carpet. And I mean, these people were coming out and they've got like the Gucci belts and the fancy jewelry and the sunglasses or what have you. And they're slinging all this cash at the bar inside. And then after about a month, you didn't see them anymore. And what that was those were the people who took whatever they were blessed to receive back from the government when tax time comes around, and they were wasting and flagrantly misusing those funds. I have a problem with that, and it's not an issue that's constrained just to African Americans. There's a lot of people from multiple different backgrounds who have this approach when they receive extra money, and they just go out and blow it. And here's the thing. You can't necessarily blame that person, necessarily, for not understanding how to make their money work for them. And that's kind of where I am with this whole reparations argument. Instead of you at Georgetown University as a student saying, I want to add extra money to pay for someone else's what have you, why not take any sort of reparations funds that people might think they are owed? Why can't we have a solution where we take that money and invest it into a school program or possibly a mandatory class of some sort? Before you graduate college, take this class. Before you graduate high school, I should say, take this class, where you learn financial and fiscal responsibility. Because let's be honest, those people I mentioned earlier who would come out to the bars, for a month and they'd be gone, they didn't understand how to make their money make them money. They'd never been taught. The only privilege in America in 2019 is green privilege. But the thing is, as I said earlier, you have a smartphone. You can learn how to be smart with your money. You can learn how to invest it. But too many people have this notion that if something just comes to them out of the blue, instead of preparing for the future, what they do is they just go out and waste it, and they can't even necessarily always be blamed for that because they never knew any better. But if we are to change this mentality of victimhood, we have to also realize that it starts from a young age, learning how to be aspirational, all right? I have a problem with a lot of these young people who look up to icons like Cardi B, who would drug and rob men back in the day. Her words. People like Cardi B. People like LeBron James. Now, it can be argued LeBron James has done some things to help his community, and that can't be overstated. But a lot of even the athletes, those are who our children are looking up to. And these people are fortunate. They have accrued massive amounts of money. But we are, from a young age, a lot of young people, not just black but white as well, they all wanted to just look up at these idols and these entertainers and say, that's what I want to be. And what's more grating is that, Don Lemon, that crazy dude over there at CNN, he was falling all over himself to go up to LeBron James when he opened his school and ask him all these questions and just be the nicest, sweetest person ever. But when it comes to other notable African Americans who have been successful, when it comes to people like Ben Carson, when it comes to people like Condoleezza Rice, they're nowhere to be found. Colonel Allen West is another one I think of. And when we exalt the wrong types of people, you don't always get the full picture of what contributes to success in the first place.
Personally, my idea of reparations lies around the context of this. Separation from majority of population, the opportunity to dissolve this interaction with a culture that is unfitting to me, I find to be quite complex for unnecessary reasons. I never really truly I never had respect for this idea and ideas of money, currency, and business, and work, and schedules. Now, I do favor accomplishing things and challenging myself and learning, however. And my personality and how I know that I do not like the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. I do like the phases of the days and the nights as to how the sun rises and when the sun sets, and the stars in alignment, and the season and climate. Now, the reason why I say this is because my idea or desire of a so-called reparation is not a reparation. It is the free will to not have to submit or conform to these ideologies that are unfitting for not only for my personality, but for my mental capacity and mindset. I do not agree with this system and a lot of its the ways it operates. Yes, I am aware that there are challenges, and yes, I do love to learn. I want to learn. I don't enjoy paying taxes because I find it absolutely it's delusional and it makes no sense. My idea and definition of work is that which I set out to do, and then the product of which, or the outcome of it, is the payoff. That's how I get paid. For instance, if we were going along this whole context and dialogue of reparations, what would that look like? It would look like being in the presence of intellectuals of different facets. I would want to be around individuals, and we would make a collective of, they have to possess characteristic qualities of empathy. Qualities, enough of a substantial amount of empathy. Someone who's compassionate also. Someone who is not quick to be savage-like, and is not focused or motivated by the concept of money or of business or of being rich, because quite frankly, in my opinion and in my belief, I am already wealthy and rich, just in my ability to be a learner and a student who is also a teacher, and that I've been fortunate to learn through mistakes, and even through some of my errors, being able to accomplish many great things without ever setting out to make a mistake. It was never a mistake. It was something that I ended up learning, and oftentimes was able to create wonderful things or do wonderful activities through that error or through that lack of guidance. Just trying, just doing it in itself, the action of it. I would much rather consider my reparation to be around intellectuals of different facets. So this could be categories of science, chemistry, biology, anatomy, there's different levels to it. People who know, who have their set skills. Some people are just born and gravitate towards certain skills. They're great with numbers. Now, do I really want to be around someone who is like super, they're very mathematically inclined and are great at multiplying and dividing and doing all that and square roots? Not entirely. However, being around people who are skilled and enjoy architecture work and are skilled at and talented with plumbing and are skilled and talented with astronomy and understanding and comprehending the location of whatever, and knowing the direction of things. I like being around people who know where they are at all times. They don't need a compass. They know where they are. They know what's facing what and what is where and where this sun, the shadow is going to end up. And they never really needed a book for that. Now, am I against books? Of course not. I loved to read. I still do love and enjoy reading. However, with the poison and the drugs that were enforced into my body, and that really rearranged my brain, and I have not been able to acquire how mentally sharp and focused I once was. Because I feel that I was violated. I know I was violated, and that needs to be repaired too. So when you're talking about things that happen, my ancestors, which I am my ancestor, I am the descendant. I do not call my ancestor, which is me, okay? I do not call myself, I don't enjoy giving myself that title of a slave. I'm not a descendant of that slave. I'm a descendant of the, basically you might as well just go ahead and say Alpha Omega. I am who I am, what I am, when I was, I am now. That's me. And I may be altered, but nonetheless, my hunger for education should not come with a price tag, because these are all illusionary ideologies that are unsettling and unfitting and unpurposeful for me. Where I want to be as far as a reparation is without the oppression and without the presence of these authoritarians in my life. Now, as far as like defense and being protected and having some, strategies, I don't enjoy being in a warlike mentality and having to uphold these war and fighting violence type of, I want to be left alone. I only want to be around people who enjoy thinking and enjoy doing, and we are not set out to get money. We are set out to see what we're able to achieve with our own creations and putting our minds together and being students. As teachers, we are always students. We're humble enough to admit that we are not always going to be 100% correct 100% of the time, 100% of the occasions and situations when it occurs. However, even in our errors, or even when we are not at that 100% margin of correctness, we are still in the process, and we are still achieving intellect through studying, through learning, through observing, through attempting trial and error, and through our actions. Our payment comes through the accomplishment of whatever we were setting out to do, or if we did not achieve whatever we set out to do. However, there was definitely something that was achieved, even if we did not come to the end result of whatever was first projected or first ascribed to set forth and do. For instance, I love gardening. I know that I love gardening. I know that I love plants. I know that I like to build things, or I like the cause and effect, as the divine entity, woman, human experience. I enjoy cause and effect. I love to learn. I love to observe. I do not like intruding on other people's beliefs, and I do not want to be amongst people who feel that it is their duty and assignment and job to regulate me, and that is my reparation. Yes, it is a challenge to be self-sufficient. I never said I was independent. That's ridiculous. I didn't get here independently, and I sure in the hell probably will not leave independently. And that's arrogant for anyone to think that they're just the almighty Billy Badass and Susie Q that runs this ship. However, when these ideologies and this asserted effort in controlling people and getting them to conform, and these attacks by the numbers and populations of folks, as I don't really know how entirely to address you, the number of oppressive ideologies and oppressive groups and organized, this is like a mafia, whether this is the thought police or the groups that say that this is the one way that it's done, and if you don't do it this one way, then you're incorrect, and I am against that. I am tired of being treated not only like a child, but then not being respected as a woman. Make up your mind where I am then, because I know who I am, and I know that I'm capable of doing things. Just give me some goddamn room and some space, and without your propaganda, without all of your invasions on my thought process and on how I choose to interact with nature itself. Okay? Technology is not a terrible, it is actually, it could be very constructive, and it is. It's a wonderful tool. Okay, I don't see certain materials as negative objects or something derogatory to my life. However, money, that one was very difficult, and I'm conflicted by it. in the essence of it, had there been anything near justice or believing in any type of whatever, you say you believe in God, and that may be true. But I don't believe in what you believe in. So just because majority population says, oh, that's what we believe in, and therefore what we say goes, well, I'm sick of that. So what, you're going to murder me just because I choose not to, I don't agree with your ideologies. I don't feel that I need $1 to feel successful. My success is a journey and is to be discovered. And it isn't just one accomplishment. It's through many different trials, many different efforts, and learning that and being able to have the ability and the freedom to do that. Therefore, if I want to experiment with drugs, so be it. It's my freaking organ. This is my entire corpse that still has a beating heart, that eventually will not have a beating heart. So I breathe with my lungs. Eventually, I will not be breathing out of these lungs that I currently possess, which are mine, which don't belong to you, belongs to me. Vice versa. Your lungs don't belong to me. Your heart beating don't belong to me. I should not have the control over that, just as much as nobody should have the control over my heart beating, my eyes seeing, and my lungs breathing, my feet moving. Leave me alone. And if you are possessing this empathy and compassion and consideration and this respectability, if you will, you have a respect for other breathing lungs and beating hearts, walking corpses, and eyes that are seeing or not. I really, honestly, I wouldn't want to be around blind people unless they were phenomenal. They were phenomenal, and they were able to reach me in that way and be able to teach and give some type of, that teaching, which, is debatable. But I want to be around those who have wisdom. I want to be around those who can create and build, around those who do comprehend technology, around those who do comprehend alchemy and chemistry, who do, are wonderful in nature. They know the herbs, they know the roots, they know those who are inclined to comprehend the whole concept, or at least most of the concept of cause and effect, or directions, okay? And predictions as far as what is most likely to occur based off of the situation that we're in now with the evidence that we have currently, and how to determine and distinguish what it is I'm looking at and what does it do and what are we able to do with it, other than just trying to trump one over the other and to try to control and then to basically hold hostage another one's free will. I don't want anyone around me who doesn't want to be around me, just as much as I don't want to be around people who don't want to be around, just as much as I don't want to be around people who are indifferent to me. They are not pleased by my, or they're angered by my existence around them. And wow, there must be enough space around here for people to move from here to there, evidently, based off the evidence, obviously. So I am not at all content with this system that I currently have been experiencing. I feel that it's crippling to free will, it's crippling to achievement, it's crippling to success, and it's crippling to my mental capacity. And I feel also that it's an insult to my intelligence.
The only privilege in America in 2019 is green privilege. But the thing is, as I said earlier, you have a smartphone. You can learn how to be smart with your money. You can learn how to invest it. But too many people have this notion that if something just comes to them out of the blue, instead of preparing for the future, what they do is they just go out and waste it, and they can't even necessarily always be blamed for that because they never knew any better. But if we are to change this mentality of victimhood, we have to also realize that it starts from a young age. learning how to be aspirational, right? I have a problem with a lot of these young people who look up to icons like Cardi B, who would drug and rob men back in the day. Her words. People like Cardi B. People like LeBron James. Now, it can be argued LeBron James has done some things to help his community, and that can't be overstated. But a lot of even the athletes, those are who our children are looking up to. And these people are fortunate. They have accrued massive amounts of money. But we are, from a young age, a lot of young people, not just black but white as well, they all want to just look up at these idols and these entertainers and say, that's what I want to be. And what's more grating is that, Don Lemon, that crazy dude over there at CNN, he was falling all over himself to go up to LeBron James when he opened his school and ask him all these questions and just be the nicest, sweetest person ever. But when it comes to other notable African Americans who have been successful, when it comes to people like Ben Carson, when it comes to people like Condoleezza Rice, they're nowhere to be found. Colonel Allen West is another one I think of. And when we exalt the wrong types of people, you don't always get the full picture of what contributes to success in the first place. And that's why I don't think the reparations argument is going to hold water as we move forward. But I think that the reasons around it are all tied up in victimhood, identity politics, social justice. And these are all things that have been creeping up slowly and slowly and slowly. And it will be so much easier to say, yeah, give me some free money. But who remembers back when they were a young child and your parents were trying to help you tie your shoes or color a book or what have you? And, naturally at one point in time in life, I'm sure most people waved them off. And they said, no, I can do it myself. And that pride in doing something yourself can also be translated to financial situations, financial acumen, any money you receive. You can't tell me that you're not proud every 2 weeks when you look in your bank account and you see the direct deposit from your employer, because that's satisfaction for a job well done, and that's restitution for.
I am not proud when I see money in my bank account every 2 weeks. That's not what makes me proud. Stop thinking for me.
Job that you put in. But when you are given something for nothing, you are statistically more prone to go out of your way and just spend it on things that you might not need, but things you might want. Throughout the last 5 years almost, I've had a chance to also see the world through the eyes of retail in a lot of convenience stores in the North Texas area. I've been blessed to see the world through a different perspective. And I can't tell you the number of times I've seen people who, all the optics indicate, might not have the most economic privilege, using what funds they have, even like government funds or what have you, to pay for things that they don't necessarily need, but things that they might want instead. I've seen people come in with cash to buy vice products like cigarettes or lottery tickets or what have you, and their children who are right next to them aren't even properly clothed. And that's why I go back to the education piece as well, because you could give us reparations. You could give someone $20,000 tomorrow.
What does properly clothed insinuate? And what do you mean by properly clothed? Cigarettes, tobacco alleviates stress. We got addicted to it based off our program of DARE. Drug, alcohol, resistance, education. Those are the first ones who introduced any of that to me. And I see where you're going, and it's absolutely appalling and shameful. But go ahead. Let's see you do some more of this people pleasing.
and say, hey, we're sorry that your great, 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 great uncle or whatever, we're sorry that he was enslaved wrongfully. We're going to give you this money. But
no, I was enslaved. Not my great, 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 great. I was.
Statistically, we're not going to see the return on that investment. It is a short-term solution. And that's all it's going to be. It's appeasement. And I think that we're better than that. As Americans, I think that we are better than just trying to stop.
I'm not American. I am better than that. You don't get to classify what I call myself. And don't speak for a group. Don't speak for everyone else. Money will not solve our problem. However, this behavior needs to be stopped because I see exactly what you're doing. I hear exactly what you're doing, and I'm sickened by this. I'm tired of this, and I have no idea what is inspiring you to do this. Is this for popularity? Is this because, are you trying to impress someone? I guarantee you, whoever you're doing it to please, they're not pleased. They're not pleased. It's not going to pay off. This is not going to pay off. And it's insulting. And it shows where you pledge your allegiance.
A quick band-aid on something, because let's be honest, the issues when you pull back the layers, as I've tried to do in this video, when you pull back the layers, there's a lot more that goes into this reparations argument, and I think a lot more could be gained from when we take the time to actually teach people how to be financially responsible, and just giving them money saying, sorry, we're sorry about slavery, here's $20,000, and then those people.
How about teaching people how to be responsible, period, and stop giving life to what is dead?
People who might get those funds will be right back at your door maybe 5-10 years down the road asking for more, saying it wasn't enough, blowing the money that they did get on things they didn't need, and not starting to create that generational wealth that we need to have. I'm going to try to catch up with some of these comments now. I know
I don't need to do that. Many of us don't need to do that. That dead object that many of you give so much life and energy to is not what fuels the fire. Is not what feeds our bodies. Is not what is planted in the soil. And is not what is harvested. To be responsible, period. And to have ownership. And to have power and control over our creation and production, activities, success. Success is not measured by dead financial ideology. And you give way too much energy to it, and it's insulting. Resources, yes, would help. Land, yes, would help. Water, large body of water would help. Location that has minerals, yes, would help. And definitely some tools like books and documents, data, translators, the tech-savvy architectures, plumbers, those who are studied in aviation, those who are studied in chemistry, alchemy, biology, those who are studied in nature and are able to identify the herbs, roots, plants, different varieties, those who are studied in prediction, those who are studied in cause and effect, those who are studied in fabric, those who are studied in like the material and the foundations of such, chemical action reactions, mixology, those who are studied in solar-powered devices, how it's built, how it's operated, the mechanisms of it. Those who are studied in directions, geography, if you will, but not entirely as far as the map is concerned. However, routes, yes, and being able to know which direction they're facing and understand the pattern of the sun and the cycles of which. Those who are studied in many different things, in linguistically, those who are studied in the arts, those who are studied in there's so many varieties and wonderful contributions that each and every living creature that has empathy, compassion, consideration, and has a respectability of thyself and of others who have a respectability of thyself and can reciprocate that.
I ranted there for a bit. Let's be frank, he worked retail for 22 years.
Wow.
Jesse Wilson, you're correct. Idolizing, there's a fine line to draw between looking up to and idolizing people. I do appreciate y'all writing these comments. Y'all know, I know y'all don't have to do this. It does me proud to know that I've got some people here who are willing to listen to me rant and rave on a Friday night. But as you can tell, this issue is something that I actually feel very passionate about. And it's just disheartening to see us continue down this road that can only lead in disappointment, from my perspective, disappointment and eventual self-destruction. And I think it's up to us to actually be willing to take up the mantle and say, hey, this is not the best way. I don't have all the answers, but I don't think this is the best way to do it. Because now we see this push. You all see it. It's continuing. Okay, so first we want reparations, and we see how this slowly begins to build. And we all know, we're not all stupid, we all know that this is all in preparation for the 2020 presidential campaign. And what I fear is that people might see that dangling object and say, oh, shiny, free stuff, yeah, and then not really accurately vet someone because it's just easier to say, I want free stuff, than to say, I want to work for this. This is a land of opportunity. It's not the land of handouts. I don't want to become that. We still have opportunities as a country. If you're a citizen and you have...
I'm okay with working, just not for not working for someone else who takes my energy and my work and my production for granted. I owe you nothing. I owe none of you anything but to give myself enough love and care for myself. Naturally, by nature, I am very, very people-pleasing, unlike you pretending to be. See, you're saying things to caress people and their egos, and if you're getting a bunch of likes and a bunch of support on this, it's because, well, I'm not going to go there because, like you said, we're not stupid. However, yeah, no, not dangly thing that's shiny, none of that. I will work for myself, and I want to be amongst people who can think for themselves and who will do not for themselves, but will simply just do, just because it brings us joy to do. We're not motivated by dead. We're not motivated by. It does not make me proud to see numbers in a dead concept of living.
intrinsic motivation, you want to get up and work for what you have, A, you're prouder of it, and B, you're not going to be as apt to just be financially irresponsible. But like I said, that starts from a younger age. Let's get into this.
Finance doesn't have to be linked together with success and achievements. And this dead mentality is what is keeping all of us depressively enslaved, sickening. It's sickening. It's sickening. It's sickening. I'm sick of repeating myself. I know it's not a popular conversation. It's not a popular stance to go against it. It's easier to say finance. It's easier to say dead weight. It's easier to say dead weight when it's contributing absolutely nothing. It's given us more problems than anything. Use that intellect and know that finance has little to nothing to do with achievement and progress, interaction, success. It's all lies. I owe no man or woman or a creature or entity or being or God or Jesus or devil or Satan or you, them, he, she, we, fem, bot, I don't care, cats, dogs, frogs. I owe to myself to interact with nature willingly. It's my free will to see what I'm capable of doing instead of being taxed and being regulated. I don't need authority, someone who will exude and oppress me with guidelines of which I never needed to follow. Savages needed to follow. Those who abused us needed to follow, not I.
School systems and teach people how to manage money. Teach people how to invest in the stock market.
Teach people how to stop trying to control others' free will and subjecting them to this ideology that has done nothing but crippled your mental capacity, even though you can use a plethora of huge financial word bank, fuel for your ego, fuel for your fake delusion to dead object and dead living, dead paper chase that leads to nowhere but closer to your grave, early death. Why? Because you want to keep us enslaved to this mentality and this energy given, wasted to this dead concept of living.
Take the money that you would give to people to go off and recklessly spend however they choose and do it in a way that ensures that you actually care about their well-being and not just trying to get their vote and pandering to them as politicians honestly are prone to do over the years. So I know y'all are still going at it in the comics. Oh gosh. Yep. NorCal on the right. It's just not possible to reconcile stolen labor 150 years ago by stealing the fruits of labor from innocent people today. I agree. It's not about, it sounds all good. I know it sounds good. But now we're asking people to pay for the atrocities of the past and people who didn't have anything to do with them. So I'm probably going to hop off here. I know this is our longest live stream. I try not to just get on here and ramble because I try to stay on message, but I'm also trying with these live streams to be a little more personable. I know I just get on my rant and hammer all my points off as fast as I could and then try to read a couple people's comments and then hop off. But I do want to engage with you as well. Y'all are what makes y'all make this move. Y'all are the ones who believe in my brother and I, and we're honored that you tune in with us. But I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream now. I appreciate you all. And if you did like the video, hopefully you've liked it and share it with a friend. If you didn't like the video, all I ask is that you tell me why. Identity politics is only going to be dead if you help us spread the message, and we appreciate those of you that keep doing so. So y'all have a great Friday, great Saturday, great weekend, and y'all will see us again next week. Leave your comments below. And I appreciate your time. Thanks, and gig him.
I sit here pretty much drained from yesterday because it's sad when suicide sounds like a better option than actually living in this world. I've already tried suicide and I wasn't able to die that time. It's not something that I wear as a badge of honor. It's absolutely disgusting. And it does hurt. So when you're left alone, because that's exactly what happened, we're left alone, but yet we're still seen as objects. And no help is done. And we'll just be another black woman who was murdered. This is what the world has came to. I don't know why people are coming on my page talking about white supremacy. This is called male dominance, where he has no respect. He would rather destroy my plants. And he says that's the reason to evict. Now, mind you, I've already survived suicide. And you would think that he would have enough decency to see the error, but he doesn't. So what am I to conclude from that is that majority of black males are narcissists. And that's sad. It's very sad. Living in this world is sad because the police did nothing. Even the police were, look, this is him. Even the police were confused as to why they had to keep coming back to the house. Now, he initially called them. The reason why is because, how they handle us women is much different to how they handle these males. See, he's having a tantrum, and he's upset because he wants to plant flowers, but evidently, and I'll go back to the picture, that's what, none of that stuff is mine except for my daughter's bike then. This is not seen as a mess. My bike was thrown away. These bikes got to stay, okay? So this is seen as a mess though. And those are all vegetables. And then he moved my compost. That's compost. But anyways, so that right there should tell you. And I know this happened to another woman. And she was doing organic gardening in her neighborhood. And they destroyed her plants.
And they destroyed her plants. And these were males who did this to her. They ripped up the vegetables and fruits and stuff by the root and trashed the place. And of course, there were people who look. There's always someone who's watching, and nothing is done. But yet, this one over here is talking about reparations and how the slavery has ended. Things have gotten better, and it's not going to fix it. And, ooh, look, a free handout. And, oh, the programs that we have now, we're not doing anything with that other than just buying, Gucci belts and stuff like that. These stereotypes and ass-kissing is just beyond me. And, wow, dude. Please. Reparations are due. May not be from those that are being told that they need to pay, but someone needs to pay, and I want answers. I want to know why. I don't want to be paid in money. I don't want to be paid in money.